Okay, let's talk about your front porch, but probably not in the way you're thinking. We're not talking about a place to just drop off packages. We're going to show you how to turn that small space into one of the most powerful financial assets you have. Seriously, let's dive in.
So let me just start by asking you a question. When you think about home investments, right, what pops into your head? A kitchen remodel, new bathroom? Well, what if I told you the absolute best, low-effort, high-return investment you can make is sitting right outside your front door? The answer, according to a ton of real estate industry data, is a mind-blowing 104% return on investment. And it comes from strategic container gardening on your porch. Yeah, you heard that right. For every single dollar you spend, you actually get more than $1 back in added home value. It's kind of nuts.
So how in the world do you capture that kind of value? Well, we're going to walk through the entire playbook. First, we'll break down the curb appeal equation. The money behind the magic. Then we'll unlock the pro gardener's secret for making those perfect arrangements. After that, we'll build a year-round porch plan, figure out how to adapt it to your location, and then finally we'll add those pro-level details for finishing the frame.
Okay, first up, the curb appeal equation. And look, this isn't about your personal taste or what flowers you think are pretty. This is about real, quantifiable value. Your front porch is the very first thing a potential buyer sees. And that first impression, well, it's an economic event. And this quote just perfectly captures the psychology at play here. Real estate experts all agree a buyer's mind is pretty much made up before they even turn the doorknob. In fact, a huge number of real estate agents say their clients have flat out refused to even go inside a house just because the outside looked bad. That first glance is everything.
So just how much does that first glance matter? This chart lays it all out. A full-on landscape overhaul? Sure, that has a critical impact. You see it on the left. But look at Container Edition, right there in the middle. It's rated as having a high impact on buyer interest. You get almost all the punch for a tiny fraction of the cost and effort. It really punches way above its weight.
Now, for all you data nerds, this is where it gets really good. Let's compare projects. A full landscape refresh is a huge undertaking, right? It's going to cost you around $9,000, and you get a 100% return. That's great. But now look at a standard Container Edition. The cost is way lower, about $4,800, and it gets you that incredible 104% ROI. It is, by the numbers, one of the smartest, most cost-effective ways to boost your home's value. Period.
Okay, so we know why this works. Now let's get to the how. How do you actually get that professional, high-impact look that drives all this value? Well, it all comes down to a really simple three-part formula that the pros use on every single project they do. And the secret framework is called Thriller, Filler, Spiller. It's this beautifully simple design rule that guarantees your containers have the three things every pro arrangement needs: structure, volume, and flow. If you can master this one little concept, you can create displays that look like they were put together by a super high-end landscape designer. So let's break it down. First, you've got the Thriller. This is your star of the show, right? The tall, dramatic, vertical plant that gives you height. It goes in the center or the back. Next up is the Filler. These are the mounded, leafy plants that just fill out the middle, giving you all that lushness and texture around your Thriller. And finally, the Spiller. These are the beautiful trailing plants that cascade over the edge of the pot, softening all the lines and connecting the whole thing to the ground. In this table, this is basically your perfect cheat sheet. For your Thriller, think something tall and dramatic, like a purple fountain grass. For your Filler, you want volume, so things like coleus or petunias are perfect. And for your Spiller, you want something that trails, something that flows, like a sweet potato vine or creeping jenny. It's a recipe for success, and it works every single time. But here's the thing. A high-value porch isn't a one-and-done project. To keep that value, you need a plan that keeps your entrance looking incredible all year long. And that's where seasonal rotation comes into play. This means you've got to start thinking about your porch in 4 distinct phases. Every season has its own unique vibe, its own challenges, and its own signature plants. Let's see how this actually works. So, in spring, the theme is awakening. Your focus is on plants that can handle a little frost, like pansies and tulips. Then summer hits, and it's all about vibrancy and beating the heat. So you swap in tough, colorful plants like lantana. For fall's harvest theme, you pivot to those rich colors and textures with mums and maybe some ornamental kale. And in winter, your focus shifts to structure, using evergreens like spruce and boxwood to give you a strong, elegant backbone when everything else has gone dormant.
Of course, a plan that works perfectly in the humid south is going to completely fail in the dry southwest. A truly strategic design, one that's going to last, has to be adapted to your specific regional climate. This part is absolutely non-negotiable.
And this guide is so incredibly useful. Take the Southwest, for example. You're fighting intense heat and drought. So, you'd want to go with succulents like agave, planted in glazed ceramic pots, because that glaze helps hold in moisture and keeps the roots cool. Now compare that to the Northeast, where the big enemy is the freeze-thaw cycle. Over there, you'd choose super hardy boxwoods planted in thick concrete planters that protect the roots from those wild temperature swings. It's all about picking the right plant and the right pot for where you live.
All right, you've got the formula, you've got the seasonal plan, and you've picked the right plants for your climate. Now let's talk about those finishing touches. These are the little details that take your porch from looking great to looking absolutely magazine-worthy.
This really shows you how design philosophy is evolving. We're moving away from that rigid, traditional look. So instead of strict symmetry with two identical pots on either side of the door, the trend is toward what's called expressive asymmetry. Maybe one huge pot balanced by a smaller group of pots. And instead of a bunch of scattered little pots, the focus now is on just a few oversized statement pieces that have a ton of impact. It's a much more natural, confident, and frankly sophisticated look.
And here are just a few final high-value tips for you. For the containers themselves, fiberglass is the gold standard. It's super lightweight, it's incredibly durable, and you can get it in all these cool modern finishes. For lighting, the pro choice is a 30,000K LED bulb. This gives you that warm, welcoming glow that isn't harsh or weirdly blue. And here's a simple but powerful one. Make sure your hardware is cohesive. Matching the finish on your lights, your house numbers, and your mailbox, that creates a polished, intentional look that buyers definitely notice. So let's just do a quick recap of the core strategies. First, invest in those big, oversized, high-quality statement containers. Go big. Second, you've got to commit to a seasonal rotation schedule to keep everything looking fresh. Third, think about incorporating smart systems, like lighting and maybe even drip irrigation to make your life easier. Fourth, mix in native plants and even edible ornamentals. You know, plants that are beautiful and you can use in your kitchen, like herbs. And finally, frame the whole picture with that coordinated hardware. Which really just leaves us with one final thought. After seeing all the data and the strategy, the question isn't just about what plants to buy. It's about how you see this space. Is your front porch just a walkway, just a path to get inside your house? Or is it an active, powerful statement of your home's value? The choice, and that incredible 104% return, is all yours.